Hello to all of you moms out there. This is episode 9 of the Solve for Mom podcast. There are so many analogies for why women and moms and pregnant women are a special class of people. For example, in clinical trials when you're testing new drugs, or in emergencies when you have to evacuate. The same goes for warfare rules. And I know those are all extreme situations, but the point is that there are special considerations when it comes to women and mothers. But then why don't we give ourselves that special consideration? Instead, we often marginalize our own personal needs in our homes. Just like you need work-life balance when it comes to our jobs, if you're all work, you're going to be burnt out. Everyone accepts that. To create that balance allows you to be more motivated at work. The same is true for our individuality and balancing it against motherhood. If we're just nurturing one end of that equation and putting all our time into motherhood, we're going to burn out and we're going to lose our individuality. So today we're going to talk about prioritizing yourself, specifically creating time and space for yourself and for you to do your hobbies and passion projects. And like in most episodes, I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do because the correct thing to do will be different for each of you. My approach is to always teach you how to figure things out, how to think critically about situations and problems and decisions. So this one is all about looking at the idea of prioritizing yourself from a different angle. And it's really a perfect one for you to listen to while you go for a quick walk around the neighborhood. So strap on your shoes and let's do this. Welcome to the Solve for Mom podcast. Do you love spending family time together every day but realize that your own interests have fallen to the wayside? Do you have a long list of things you wish to learn but you're so tired from trying to balance it all on your own and frustrated from not planning ahead to make it happen? Have you been mom for so long that you've lost track of who you are as an individual? Hi, I'm Anoki. I'm a PhD biomedical researcher, homeschooling mom, and life coach. I too poured myself into being a mom and thought I had to stop doing the things that I love to do. I was struggling to make time for myself, had lost my sense of direction, and kept second-guessing myself. I wanted to take back control of my purpose and passions, but I kept telling myself there'll be plenty of time for that later. Until I did what was natural to me. Using the methods of a scientist, I created plans to prioritize my values, organize my time, and take action towards my goals. If you're ready to go questing for your purpose, level up your learning, and confidently pursue your passions while still being the awesome mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this complex equation we call life, it's time to sharpen our pencils and our minds and solve for mom. Let's travel back in time to a couple of years ago. At that time, my days were spent addressing the needs of a baby, managing the chaos of a toddler, having to keep up with housework and figure out logistics with my husband, and as a remote worker, I was squeezing in some scientific consulting projects, which usually meant I was working during their nap times or when I could muster up enough energy in the evenings. I actually thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was doing a pretty good job, because everyone's basic needs were being met. They were being fed and cleaned and shuttled and all the things. But what I had repeatedly overlooked was one person in the family. I had completely stopped doing stuff for myself. What I wasn't doing in those days was any significant self-care whatsoever, getting downtime or alone time. I wasn't engaging in any of my hobbies or self-development. I hardly had any dates with my husband, and I wasn't getting enough rest. Here's where my headspace was back then. I was feeling guilty anytime I thought or did take time for myself, because that meant that I was putting in less time for my family. I was pushing off those yearnings of wanting to do other things and telling myself that I'd get to those things later. I would mentally create this wish list of things I wanted to do, but then I would never do anything about it. It was like a faraway dream. One day, just not today. Or I would tell myself that my family needs me more than whatever it is that I needed. And my husband was working so hard, I couldn't possibly dump more on him. And here's the big one. I thought that everything will crumble without me. I was juggling everything for everyone. If I dropped one ball, then of course they would all come tumbling down. Sound familiar, ladies? Here's the thing. Whenever you say yes to one thing, you are also saying no to something else. So are you always saying yes to everyone and everything else in your life? Because if you are, that means you are consistently saying no to yourself. I know I was doing this, and it was definitely impacting my physical, mental, spiritual well-being. And even worse, I didn't even feel like myself anymore. And believe me, that was not sustainable. I'm going to give you 5 compelling reasons for why prioritizing yourself is actually what is also good for your family. And it all starts with overriding the excuses, getting over this mental block that you can't take time for yourself, that you're not as important as anybody else in your family. Of course, you do need to learn how to carve time out for yourself and how to maximize that time with effective planning. But those are things that you will learn by listening to the Solve for Mom podcast week after week. But the time and the plans don't even matter if you don't allow yourself to prioritize yourself in the first place. Overriding this limited mindset is the first step. The first big reason of why you should prioritize yourself is because your family needs you to be healthy. It is true, your family does need you, but more specifically, they need a healthy working version of you. Your physical health depends on a working body and a strong immune system. But chronic stress and lack of sleep and lack of exercise, among other things, are all known to impact your health. And if you don't take care of yourself, it will eventually affect your physical and even your mental or spiritual health. And some of you, if you're already dealing with a temporary or chronic illness, then it's even more important for you to up your self-care time. You need an outlet to relieve stress and improve your mental well-being. That could be exercising. It could come in the form of meditation. Perhaps you like to listen to music or dance to music. Play video games. Spend time doing your hobbies. You need your downtime. That is how you minimize burnout during motherhood. We all know that it can happen at work, but it can happen to you at home too. And so you need to take care of yourself. Take a break. Do the things you like to do and have an outlet for stress relief. All of that is going to help you recharge and keep you in good physical and mental health for you to also then take care of your family. The next important thing I want you to think about is emphasizing quality time with your family over the quantity of time you spend with your family. When you address your own fundamental needs, you will be able to be more present for your family. I find that when I've taken time for myself, I'm then able to soak in every word, every expression, and every feeling during my time together with my family. When you take time for yourself, your patience and attention is going to be higher because you've found a way to recharge. When I sacrifice my personal time in order to extend my family time, I end up being grumpy and I'm quicker to snap at people. Without my rest or form of stress relief, my emotional regulation is on low and I'm much more likely to encounter negative interactions with my family. And that's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish in the first place with my family time. I'm looking for improving connection and building a stronger relationship, especially with my kids. I don't want you to stress so much about the amount of time you're spending with them. It might sound counterintuitive, but taking time for yourself actually improves your relationship with your family because the time that you do spend with them is going to be of higher quality and filled with a lot less conflict and less friction. And the third thing to know, which might actually be surprising to some of you, is that planning for your own time will help you be more organized in other areas of your life, including family time. When I was in high school, I ran cross country, which was a fall sport, and I did track and field, which was a spring sport. But my off season was in the winter. And what I found was that my grades fluctuated throughout the year. Some of you might think that my grades were actually higher during the winter season when I wasn't participating in any sports because I'd have more time to study and to do my homework. But it was actually the other way around. Anytime I was busy with school sports and activities after school, I had to be so organized and get my schoolwork done as soon as I could to make time for those activities. And because of that, I was a lot more productive. I was always on top of my schoolwork and much more prepared for my exams. And the same thing is true with planning in your personal life. If you have to get organized and plan your time so that you can build in time for yourself and your interests, it will automatically trickle down to other areas of your life and lead you to being more organized for things like home management, homeschooling, or even weekend activities, for example. And somewhat related, by being more organized and having plans, you're also more likely to take action on doing those things. The fourth thing is one of my favorites. When you prioritize yourself, your individuality is just going to come shining through. Every time you engage in personal development, you're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to learn about your likes and dislikes and refine what you do because of that. You're going to challenge yourself, and in doing so, you're going to be building skills and building character for that matter. Things like discipline, persistence, and grit. Your confidence and self-worth are going to start shooting up. One of the hardest things about when I ignore myself is that I stop feeling like myself. When I let everything in my life revolve around other people, like my kids, I end up losing myself and forgetting what I'm capable of. I'm demotivated and my confidence spirals. And I kind of become a bit of a wallflower, just living passively through my kids' lives. When I take charge and take time for myself, even when it's something small and simple like getting a haircut, or even something big like working on a passion project, my posture changes, how I dress changes because how I see myself has changed. How and when I speak to people changes, and it's a ripple effect. People are more likely to come over to me and start talking to me. I'm sure my personality is shining through at this point, and I'm probably more interesting to be around. But the best part is, your kids are going to see you in a new light as well. And the fifth and last reason I'm going to share with you today is that you are setting an example for your children when you prioritize yourself. I mean, we're always setting an example for our children, but particularly in the matter of prioritizing yourself. One day, your children are going to be adults, and they too are going to face the similar conflict of having to balance themselves with their work or families. And how wonderful would it be if they had this template to follow? Every time you're choosing yourself, they're going to be watching. So you are making it okay for them to do that too, especially when they're adults. What an amazing gift that would be for them. When you do this in front of them, it signals to your family and to your kids that you value yourself, that you are worth it. And guess what? They are then going to learn to value you as well, but also they're going to learn to value themselves. They're going to watch you allow yourself to grow, and they will see you in a new light. They will respect you even more for it. And believe it or not, it's going to improve your relationship with them. Now, I'm not suggesting that you abuse this choice that you have to make. There is a big difference between you taking time for yourself because it's an investment that you're making to better yourself and better serve your family. That's very different than being selfish by singularly thinking of yourself only. What I taught you today was how to get out of this mental block, especially when you are making excuses. As critical thinkers, we take part in reasoning. And the point of any logical argument is to reach a truthful conclusion. All logical arguments and reasoning are based on a premise and assumptions. And the idea is that those have to be true assumptions in order for you to end with a truthful conclusion. If you are starting with false assumptions, then either your argument is going to completely fall apart or you're going to end up with a faulty conclusion. So what if you denying yourself personal time is based on faulty assumptions? Well, that's what your excuses are. Okay, and you don't have to take my word for it. How do you know that when you're making an excuse that it's actually false? You need data for that. And if you don't have the data for it, then you have to gather data. Well, in science, we do this by experiments and testing things out. So I'm going to encourage you to do this. Test this out. Make a direct comparison. Of course, it's going to be on the qualitative side of things, but I've done this comparison many times and the trend becomes very clear. So I want you to try it for yourself. Sometimes it's hard to change your thinking without the hard proof. What happens when you try to do all those things that you're juggling and you don't get enough sleep or time for yourself? How are your family interactions? And then maybe the next day, see what happens when you actually give yourself some time. You take your 15-minute breaks here and there. You give yourself a chunk of time to do a hobby. Were you able to finish your work? Were there any negative effects? How was the time with your family? Really, I want you to try to do this and get back to me. Tell me what you find. That way we can all have more data. It would be great if we could all share this information with each other. In today's episode, I gave you 5 reasons why making time to prioritize yourself is a better way to serve your family. Now, sometimes you might know it's the right thing, but you can't get out of that mental trap. And in those times, it might be helpful to flip the script. For example, we have a lot of things that we try to do as mothers on top of our obligations at work and other parts of our life. But for each of these things, we need to be healthy, be productive, have good relationships with our coworkers and our family, to not be burned out or have mom brain all the time, to be accomplished and skilled, and definitely to not be stressed out. Guess what addresses all of that? It's putting yourself first. So you can start now, or if you want to, you can wait till tomorrow. When you find yourself making an excuse, ask yourself, is my assumption false? And if you don't have the data to know whether it's false, do your experiment. Give yourself 15 minutes and then track and see what your next hour with your family or at home was like, and compare that to how you were feeling. And remind yourself, maybe you need to flip the script. Instead of saying that you don't have time for yourself because you need to give time to your family, you can say, I have to give time to myself in order for me to be there for my family. Your family cares about you so much. It's time that we all start caring about our own selves as well. Thank you so much for hearing me out. I really hope that you give yourself this gift because, as we talked about, it's going to be a gift that's going to have a lasting impression on your kids and your family. And I really want the amazing parts of you to be there and present when you spend time with your amazing families. I hope today's episode will help you create time and freedom to pursue something you love to do. If you enjoy this show, please subscribe and tell other ambitious mamas about it. Who knows, you might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. Thank you for making my show a part of your day. I'll see you next week for another episode of the Solve for Mom podcast with Anoki Kapasi.